So welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this important and exciting announcement that many people who are here with us have helped make happen. Here's how the program will go. We'll get started by sharing some of the challenges of the nonprofits that nonprofits faced and that impact their ability to effectively fulfill their missions. Then we'll tell you how we're going to collectively solve that problem. You will hear lots of voices in our program today, and we encourage you to share your voice and comments, to ask questions by putting them in the chat. And at the end of the program, we'll have a Q&A session. And I'll ask if there are any media with us asking questions, just identify who you are with. To kick us off, I want to start thanking a few people. A very special thanks to AMPT, which stands for Academy of Music Production, Education, and Development, and Dave Christopher, the founder and ED of AMPT, for hosting this event today. And a huge shout out to the AMPT students who produced the opening music and the closing music. So I know that there's a virtual applause happening, Dave, for all your wonderful students. As always, I want to thank the CNPE Board of Directors for their support and strategic guidance, and our foundation partners, sponsors, and the members of CNPE who make all of this work we do possible. And if you're not a member, please join us. Our members include nonprofits, foundations, government entities, business, and community volunteers. And of course, once you become a member, you get lots of great discounts and many, many other benefits. Of course, I want to thank the CNPE team for their dedication and hard work. They were all involved in this one way or another, specifically Garrison Cox, who helped us get out the word, and for CNPE's amazing Merv Antonio, our Director of Learning, who is constantly thinking about how to provide the very best educational opportunities for our sector. So Merv, thank you for your endless work and commitment to this project and many others. I hope you were able to see the opening PowerPoint slides that had the pictures and names of our planning team and our advisory group. I want to thank all of you on the planning team and advisory group for all you've done to help us get this far in designing the courses and helping us think through what are the priorities. There are many others to thank, and we will recognize them throughout the program. But let's take a moment and talk about the problem we're trying to solve. Last May, CNPE surveyed the region's nonprofits during the pandemic, and the call for help was loud and clear. No surprise, the number one need was funding. This was the case prior to the pandemic, when nonprofits were being asked to do more, but still struggling to make ends meet. But during the past year, it became even more of a crisis. According to the Kentucky Nonprofit Network and Grant Makers of Kentucky's year-end report on the health of Kentucky's nonprofit sector, the pandemic is estimated to have cost Kentucky nonprofits over $200 million in lost revenue, while increasing their expenses to date by at least $13.6 million. I'm going to pause here for just a moment and read this again. The pandemic is estimated to have cost Kentucky nonprofits over $200 million in lost revenue, while increasing their expenses to date by at least 13.6 million. We're talking about nonprofits who were already challenged, who struggle every year to balance their budgets so they can help people in their communities who need us. But we all know this is not a new problem. But there has never been a more important time for us to double down on increasing nonprofit investment. That means we need more people giving, we need increased levels of giving from current donors, and we need more equitable access to that giving. So to accomplish this, we must develop more skills and connections, more inspiration, more engagement across this community. And this school is designed to serve everyone, which is why equity is at the very core of its mission and practices. Now let's hear what a few of our nonprofit leaders are saying about this need.
My name is Karina Varillas, and I am the Executive Director and one of the founding mothers of La Casita Center. I have a degree in counseling psychology, and when we started the dream of La Casita, little I know about fundraising and about all the different strategies that we need in order for our nonprofits to grow, but also to be financially sustainable. We do not ask for charity. If anyone approaches us, we invite that person to be part of our circle. It is very difficult for organizations like La Casita, that is, a Latinx-led organization, a feminist-led organization, to follow all the different techniques that are out there in the business of nonprofit. Why? Because we are trying in the work that we do to look at things through the lens of our cultures, through the lens of the people that we accompany, and through the lens of how we want to, again, demainstreify and also dismantle the different ways that things that are being done that do not match with who we are. It takes a long time, especially for Black and brown-led organizations, for us to prove ourselves that our work has an impact. So for us that we have been in the making for 21 years and with 16 years of having our 501c3, it is until now that we are getting close to get the evidence and the research base that proves that our accompaniments and our services and our support really works in the community, because we have always had two choices. One is to prove that what we're doing works, and then the other choice is to accompany the community. So going out there, telling your story, being consistent, trying to get around the community, and maybe at the beginning, without any results, but little by little, people are going to start looking at your name, looking at what you're doing, and the community that you are accompanying are going to start, passing on the word of the impact that your accompaniment has created in their lives. So I really think that it goes beyond funding. It goes about the credibility. It goes about the people that you are inviting to be part of your circle. And also it goes about you standing very transparently and very lovingly with the idea and the agreements and the mission and the spirit of who you are. Muchas gracias.
Hi, my name is Stacy Bailey-Njai, and I'm Executive Director and Co-Founder of Bridge Kids International. I think this idea of a fundraising school is a really interesting one. At Bridge Kids, we're primarily funded through grants. We've gotten one large national grant, but we are primarily funded through local foundations and even some local government. But where we really struggle is developing a solid base of individual donors and even corporate donors. And without being from the business world, we don't really have the connections in that area, and we really need help developing a strategy for that. We're also working on developing our own income streams through social enterprise to help give us a better sense of security, because without those other areas and just relying on foundation funds, it makes us pretty vulnerable, because when the funding priorities shift, we can't be guaranteed that we'll have that ongoing solid funding that will allow us to, keep our staff and keep our operations going. I mean, that's some of the most challenging money to get. You can get funding for programs, but we really need in this community to have the ability to plan into the future, because we know we have a sense of security around operations. At Bridge Kids, we focus on using the power of African heritage culture to develop communities that support the well-being of young people, and then we help young people develop the confidence and the skills to take on community challenges. And we believe this culturally based programming really has an impact on the lives of young people of African heritage, African Americans, people from the Caribbean, Africans in our community. And our work really, we work to develop some sustainable ways to combat the impact of generational racism. And we're looking at developing new strategies for that. One of them is the Kizazi Fund, which again uses African heritage culture to shift wealth building in African American and African heritage families. So the importance of funding and being able to do that with, again, a sense of security that you can plan into the future, that you can hire. We're at a place where right now we're pretty much at capacity. We do lots of different programs, and we want to, do deeper and broader work, but without being able to hire a new administrative person who can sort of work at a high level and be like my assistant director. That would provide, I think, longevity for the organization. But again, we need that funding to do that. And so, the idea of having a place in our community where we can go to get that kind of training and develop those relationships that will allow us to sustain our organizations and really build communities so that young people can be in a position to inherit our neighborhoods and our community is something that sounds really interesting for Bridge Kids.
Thank you, Karina and Stacy. So we'll come back to more voices in a moment. So what is the solution we're talking about? So we're here to announce the creation of Kentucky's first School of Fundraising and Engagement. Now, this is where I can't see you. You can't see what's happening here, but this is where you get to stand up and go hip, hip, hooray, and clap and do all your cartwheels and stuff like that. The school will run a spring and fall session, and our first class is on April 23rd. It will meet virtually. The school will cover topics such as fundraising and storytelling and fundraising for equity without stigmatizing impacted people, volunteer leadership and fundraising, building partnership with foundations and corporations, and all the other typical types of things like grant writing, plan giving, annual giving, and so forth. But how do you build a school during a pandemic? It takes vision and it takes a dedicated team, but it also takes funding, which is the fuel that gives an organization the ability to operate. It gives me great pleasure to announce that the James Graham Brown Foundation has provided the seed funding for this endeavor for the first 2 years. It is our goal to ultimately build a self-sustaining school by year 3. I would like to ask Mason Rummel, the president and CEO of James Graham Brown Foundation, to tell us why she and her board thought it was important to invest in this school.
Thank you, Ann, and good morning, everyone. When Ann and Mark shared their idea to create this school, I thought timing is everything. This initiative is important in so many ways, but is most crucial today as we begin to build back our sector and our community. This school will not only benefit our nonprofit agencies, but will strengthen the interactions and relationships with the funder community. That can only lead to more effective and sustainable outcomes for our sector. The Brown Foundation has always sought to strengthen the nonprofit community, and this school is a key step toward that vision. I believe that we, both funders and nonprofit organizations who participate, will learn a lot from each other, which will benefit everyone. We are proud and delighted to help launch this and are grateful to CNPE and Ashley Roundtree for stepping up and leading the way. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mason. We couldn't do it without you. Now I think we're going to go back and hear a few more voices. Can you tee that up, Dave, so we can hear from Decode and from yourself?
I'm Latoya Whitlock with Decode Project. Our mission is to eliminate inequities in education by fostering a diverse community of learners prepared to navigate the world. We are about a 3-year-old nonprofit. We have a very small budget, a very small team, and we are doing a lot of heavy lifting. And so currently our organization is financially supported by the generosity of the community. We've been afforded a few smaller grants from foundations throughout the city. We also have been fortunate to have several small donors who are just community members, neighbors, friends, from personal and professional networks. Our current financial support covers the majority of our initial needs for programming. It is in no way enough for us to sustain our programming. We do have a financial plan or a fundraising plan of small events or annual events. We have a fundraising calendar and a grant calendar for grants that we've researched that we think probably have a really good shot at being awarded. Louisville is a little big town that is saturated with nonprofits. So we realize that it's very competitive for fundraising, but we also realize that there's plenty of opportunity for fundraising. It's just that it's not necessarily our best skill set to fundraise. We have tremendous people who are around to support our programming and even have the ability to help us build the infrastructure, but that does come at a cost. And while most of our fundraising is to raise money for bare bones programming, it's really challenging to get philanthropic support around capacity building or needs that show up in a growing organization that aren't necessarily written into the annual budget. I have some experience with nonprofit fundraising. I've been a nonprofit for about 18 years now, maybe a little over. And of course, in all nonprofit organizations, they're all hands on deck. So I've been a part of grant writing. I have been a part of networking. I have been a part of creating the measuring tools to measure a program's success in reporting. But as far as donor database management and making those day-to-day connections, building those relationships, making sure that you're making those contacts. I know that you have to reach out to folks so many times before they really have an understanding of your program and before they're really sold and bought into the program enough to be a pillar of financial support of your programming. And so that takes time, that takes money, and that also takes, that's a role, that's a full-on position. And without funding to fund those positions, it's really spinning several plates at one time. I believe a local fundraising school would help us to achieve our goals. This is a real job. There is an expertise that goes with fundraising that I think often is overlooked. And while there are professionals who are able to go to school for this, when you get down to trying to make sure that the need is met in the community, unfortunately, fundraising is easily overlooked. It'd be nice to have access to professionals who easily can give you suggestions, help you build out a fundraising plan, help you plan for scalable programming. I think that the benefit of a fundraising school, especially locally, and that would be affordable and accessible to newer and Black-led nonprofit organizations would be mutually beneficial for both the community and organizations.
Thank you, Latoya. Appreciate you sharing your story with us. So when I first read the CNPE survey results back in May, I reached out to Jeff Ashley and Mark Roundtree and asked them to meet with me and talk about how can we grow philanthropic giving in this community. And that's when Mark Roundtree shared with me his vision of a fundraising school, and the partnership was born. We periodically tease about CNPE and Ashley Roundtree being friendly competitors because we both offer consulting services. And I share this with you because it's important for all of us to rethink who we might partner with to accomplish our mission. We really do need to start working better together. So Mark and Ashley Roundtree have been exceptional partners, and we could not have created the school without them. Besides the fact that Mark is really fun to work with, and he is smart and creative, he knows fundraising backwards and forwards, and his network is a powerful resource for the school and this community. So Mark, I want to say thank you for saying yes to this partnership and for giving so much time and energy to make it happen. I'm going to turn it over to you now to share more about the school.
Okay, thank you, Ann. And it's great to be a part of this event today. And really, thank you so much for reaching out to us. And there's no doubt about it. Our community is really facing unprecedented challenges and opportunities also to really make some urgent improvements in the way we care for each other across our entire community. And Jeff, Ashley, and I and our staff were so pleased you reached out to us. When we talk about how to build our community back, the nonprofit sector is going to be at the heart of this and at the heart of taking action. I believe, and you know, Ann, is going to be fundraising and engagement at a whole new level that needs to be a truly equitable partnership across staff, volunteers, and funders, where we engage the whole community to give from our hearts, whether it's time or talent or donations. And we believe at the beginning of that is education, access to education and best practices. Also, not just for staffs, not just for volunteers and boards, but also a two-way dialogue between funders and nonprofit leaders, where each can gain a deeper understanding of how philanthropy can be reimagined, right? We see the school as a forum for learning about fundraising and engagement without borders. So in this first year, as you pointed out, we're going to have about 16 courses between April and November. They're going to be 90 minutes. They're going to focus on the fundamentals. And we're going to use practitioners from local staff and boards and funders in small classes. We're going to limit enrollment to 25 or 30. So there might be waiting lists, and we may open up second sessions if we do have waiting lists. And we're going to really focus on mentoring and people getting to meet peer-to-peer with each other and with the instructors. And starting today, you can go online to CNPE and register for any of these 12 courses. And then next year in 2022, we're going to introduce a philanthropy leadership cohort, about 20 people who are going to be selected next year to work together in an intense 6-month experience where they're going to help rebuild solutions in the community and fundraising. We're also going to be offering a certificate for anyone who takes up to 8 courses. And we're also pending CFRE credit for all these courses too, for those of you who need that credit in the Certified Fundraising Executive. Let me speak to one more thing. In a region with so many nonprofits, hundreds and hundreds of nonprofits, what Ann, her staff, and our planning committee realized is there is a dearth of diversity in philanthropic leadership. There are so few people of color holding titles like board chair, executive director, director of development, vice president of advancement. So one of the goals of the school is to seek to expand the pipeline of leadership, the peer-to-peer networking, and the access to funders and funders understanding who's out there. We want to double these numbers over the next few years. And we started ourselves by setting an example. Here at the school, I'm really pleased that so far with our inaugural faculty of about 21, we've got almost half of our faculty representing communities of color in our community. Now, we may be the first school of fundraising and engagement in this state. But we're not the first nonprofit to try to do some fundraising education for professionals and for volunteers. As many of us know in the nonprofit sector, since the 1980s, Louisville, Lexington, and Southern Indiana have been very fortunate to have several professional organizations that do provide some education monthly or quarterly. And since last summer, the planning team and I have been reaching out to these organizations, asking them, what can we do to work together? How can we make sure we complement and don't duplicate? And I'm really pleased today to introduce Chris Head. Chris Head is with the Salvation Army, but he is also a member of our planning team because Chris is president of the Association of Fundraising Professionals of Greater Louisville, which is the oldest and largest of these professional education associations in our community. Chris, thank you for your hard work. Thanks for joining the planning team. And I'm going to turn the podium over to you.
Well, great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for allowing AFP and myself to be here today with this really great announcement for the school. As a representative of the Association of Fundraising Professionals of Greater Louisville, we couldn't be more excited for the formation and implementation of this fundraising school and the planned curriculum. The school will assist us in meeting the continuing need for quality education when it comes to foundational and operational support for these nonprofits. The school will really allow people at any various entry point to come in and learn about fundraising and improve their skills and make their community better through their nonprofit. Our chapter's programming tends to focus on the needs at hand in today's topics. For example, the past year, we've really focused on COVID-related fundraising through virtual fundraising and other techniques. The CNPE school will provide structural, organizational, financial, and donor stewardship education that will serve our newer chapter members and as a launch point for those just getting into the industry. This type of education will be vital as COVID, social justice, and other community needs have encouraged new nonprofits to spring forth and existing nonprofits to really grow their sphere of influence. Mission planning and essential fundraising must be thought out, planned out, and organized so that these nonprofits can continue to have a positive impact in our community. Our chapter hopes to continue to be an active in current seminar development and support additional leadership and executive curriculum as the school evolves over the next few years. Our board is invested in creating a partnership with the school so that our members have access to resources and the education they need to be successful. So AFP is behind the school. We're excited to be a part of it. And we really hope to continue to grow it with our partners at CNPE and at Ashley Roundtree so that it benefits all of the folks in the nonprofit industry and community here in Louisville. So I'm going to turn it over to Katina Whitlock with GE and Tawanda Owsley with Hospice for a few words.
Thank you, Chris, and good morning to everyone, and thank you all for joining us. As Chris mentioned, this is a wonderful opportunity for everyone in our city. I'll use a sports analogy to kind of reference what we're doing. We're looking at the opportunity to better the ball. As someone who spent nearly 2 decades as a professional fundraiser myself, and now working in the capacity as someone who works with nonprofits through a corporate giving lens, I'm excited to be able to offer this to nonprofits of every size. What we've realized is that there's an opportunity. There are a lot of nonprofits in the city of Louisville that were passion projects that have now become professional projects. And so to be able to give the opportunity to really help people, as Stacy mentioned, sustain and establish longevity within the organization, we are excited to participate today.
Thank you, Tina. Likewise, being a nonprofit leader in our community and having worked in the profession of fundraising for over 20 years, I am thrilled to elevate this profession. I'm excited about the opportunity to grow our pipeline of talent in our community and to enhance those leaders that have been in this profession for a while. So more than anything, we want folks to join us on this endeavor, and we look forward to changing the landscape of the nonprofit community in Louisville.
Thank you, Katina, Tawanda. What they didn't tell you is both of these individuals are part of our planning team and have been very involved in helping us structure everything that you're hearing about today. So look forward to continue working with you. All right, so I'm going to ask Merv to come in and join me, and Mark Roundtree. We're now ready for to answer any questions anyone might have. So this is your moment. Any questions come in, Merv?
No, but good morning, everyone. Thank you all for your participation. It's great to see. We've got 86 eyeballs on this live stream right now. So please continue to engage with us. And if you have any questions for me or for Mark or Ann about anything about the school, we'd be happy to take those right now.
Thank you, Merv. I failed to introduce you. Merv's our famous Director of Learning for CNPE. While we're waiting for some questions to come in, Dave, I'm going to ask you to join us and have an opportunity to tell us why you're so involved in this and why you think it's important.
Oh, that's easy. Just like Tawanda and Tina and a lot of the videos that you saw talked about, I feel like, well, I know that fundraising is the lifeblood of what we do. I mean, I tell people our programs are free, but they do cost, and it's difficult to run a really quality program without being able to fundraise and build that longevity. I always think about when we use the word nonprofit, I think sometimes people think that means you don't need money to do what you do, and that it can somehow be staffed by volunteers. And for as much as I love volunteers, when you talk about consistency and longevity, and I believe Stacey Bailey and Jai talked about that, is being able to hire those folks that you need to become self-sustaining. Because you don't want to spend your entire lifetime in nonprofit with your hand out. So you want to be able to create a good, strong foundation that requires fundraising. And so as a person that fell into nonprofit accidentally, wasn't planning on it, kind of stumbled into it, I learned really quickly how important it was to fundraise. And so that's what I'll say. And I'm just really excited about the school. I'm excited about being a part of it, being able to do the instructional storytelling, being able to tell your story. So thank you, Ann, Merv, Mark. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And thank you again for helping set all this up today. Do we have any questions, Merv?
Yes, we got a few. Looks like they're coming through from Facebook. Stephanie had a question about, can you briefly explain the application process again?
So Merv, that sounds like one for you.
So if you go to cnp.org/fundraising school, so that's the actual link. I know it's a little abbreviated in the scroll down there, but if you go cnpe.org/fundraising school, that will take you to our webpage, and there you can just directly sign up for classes. There is no application process. However, once we expand the program in 22, I'm sure we'll have one for the fundraising leadership cohort. All right, next question again from Facebook. How much will the classes cost? So each class is $75 for members, $95 for non-members. We do have scholarship opportunities available. You do have to fill out a form for that, and that also is available on our website and our webpage. What else? Will all the courses offer CFRE credits? Mark, did you want to take that one?
Sure. Thanks, Merv. We've been talking with CFRE.org, the folks out on the East Coast who handle CFRE accreditation. And we are right now in the process of applying and being reviewed for CFRE accreditation site learning, which means by April, we will be able to offer continuing ed credit through CFRE, such as AFP Louisville and AFP Bluegrass does. So thanks for asking that. And we'll be there by April when we start.
Great, thank you, Mark. Looks like I missed a question here. Are we to register for the school or each individual courses? So right now, to participate, you'll have to register for each course individually. We don't have a shopping cart option right yet, but hopefully as we move forward, we'll add that as well. So right now, you register for each course individually. Other questions? Mark, did you mention the certificate aspect?
Right. So when we were planning this program, talking to folks in the field and the other associations, such as fundraising executives of Metro Louisville and Southern Indiana, people said, somewhat like the IU program up in Indianapolis, wouldn't it be great for learners and for employers and board members to be able to accumulate a base of knowledge and get a certificate? We don't want to make it too formal or too cumbersome. So our idea is after about 8 courses, which will be easy to finish within the course of the first year, we'll offer a certificate of fundraising and engaging from CNPE. And we'll also do something that some of the other schools don't do around the country, which is a capstone of the end of your certificate journey will be a session of some peer-to-peer mentoring and coaching with one of our faculty members in a small group. And we know that people have wished for more of that, and that's going to be a hallmark of our school and our certificate program. So again, it'll be about 8 courses. We're going to ask that at least 5 of them be in what we call fundamentals and then some electives. Thanks, Merv.
Thank you, Mark. So Ben has a question. How can for-profit business owners leverage these courses to better navigate giving and impact tracking? Anne, do you want to take that one?
So I think that's a good question. The way the school is designed, we really want it to be opened. And as Mark says, it's a school without borders. We really want everybody to be part of the learning and part of the teaching. And from the corporate side, I would say from being more engaged with nonprofits, understanding the process of fundraising, how you can improve the flow of giving from your end, as well as understanding how to more effectively make impact on your side. So I hope that's helpful. I mean, it's a continuous learning from both sides, and it's an evolving field, right? I mean, we're right in the middle of a transformation because of COVID and what we've learned about how to more effectively make impact, how effectively to have funds flowing more quickly. So organizations and individuals on the front line and others can be more impactful with their work. So we're learning a lot. And so I think, yes, it's open to anyone that's interested in the nonprofit sector and being part of growing generosity, growing the flow of money, and growing the knowledge and the ability to have more individuals in nonprofits asking and engaging. So you might be able to expand on that, Mark, if you'd like, more succinctly.
Well, that led me to want to make sure I encourage everyone who's watching this today or in a replay later this week. Who's the school for? What kind of learners are we hoping will be part of the program in 2021? Well, certainly if you're a director of development or a staff member in a fundraising office, even a staff of one in a nonprofit, this school was meant for you. And we knew we couldn't do everything in one course. So we're offering a dozen courses, including one that's an overview of the entire field of fundraising. The other kind of person we were thinking about are people like our friend Dave at AMP, who until recently was a one-man show in terms of fundraising. He was doing it himself. So executive directors or staff members who have no fundraising staff at all, and that's a lot of nonprofits in our community. This school is for you to pick and choose topics where you want to learn something new and where you want to meet new people and get access to networks. We also were thinking about board members, which sort of gets to the question that you had, Ann. And that is people who work in the for-profit community and serve out of a love of mission on a board or a committee, and they want to learn more about, say, grant writing, or they want to learn more about how to be a volunteer in fundraising, or how to be somebody who is mindful of building equity and diversity and inclusion across fundraising and engagement. You can take courses here. If you are thinking of hiring a new staff member in your organization for the first time to look at this whole area of fundraising, this would be a really good time to review 2, 3, 4 classes. And I want to go back as I close. Don't forget that we have other partners in this community. Chris Head with AFP Greater Louisville. We have people tuning in today from across the state. AFP has a chapter out in Lexington called AFP Bluegrass. There's a chapter of fundraising executives up in New Albany in southern Indiana, and also one here in Metro Louisville. Plan Gift individuals and professionals meet every quarter. So there are other ways to really supplement your education, and all of us are here to help kind of expand all the educational opportunities for everybody. So that's what I would add to that. I could talk all day.
All right. Thanks, Mark. We actually have a couple more that maybe you can help chime in on. How does this certificate align with the ones offered by the IU School of Philanthropy?
It is aligned to the extent that we're trying not to duplicate what the Lilly School of Philanthropy is doing. And our courses are different in that they're very focused, fundamental best practices for just 90 minutes. So as you know, Merv, CNPE has been a partner of the Lilly School in bringing their instructors to our community for coursework. But I think those courses are much longer, aren't they? And they have a different direction in terms of the amount of information they're trying to give you. We're not going to offer cross credit in the two programs. We're just a standalone offering a dozen 90-minute courses as opposed to IU.
Great, thank you, Mark. What did we decide were the 5 core courses?
We are pretty well focused on annual giving, major gifts, foundation, and the introduction to fundraising, and we'll probably include either storytelling or this course that we've been very excited building with Daryl Unsold on creating and sustaining an equitable approach to your fundraising and engagement. We are still in a mode of planning the core courses before we launch in April, because we know most people won't be able to finish their core courses until sometime in the fall or even next winter. But we're interested in feedback from all of you today about what you feel are the core fundamentals of any fundraising program.
Great, and then we have another final question from Facebook. He asks, what type of research was done to come up with the content of courses? Where did you find the need to focus on these topics specifically?
Well, can I jump in that for just one moment? Because initially, before we reached out to Ashley Roundtree and then also building the planning team, we had years of research and input from members of CNPE. And so we had a pretty good handle on, if you will, the marketplace, what individuals were needing. But I just want to set that up for you, Mark. And this is probably going to have to be our last question, Merv. So
sure,
I'll let you set that up, Merv.
Well,
Mark.
we're fortunate, as I said, to have on the planning team, on our advisory committee, which is a larger group, and among the professional network that got behind this idea starting really last summer, we're fortunate to have a bunch of people who have been going to a lot of these courses locally and the IU courses. And we looked at the data from the CNPE survey to see what did people want. And one of the key things that came out of all of our discussions in August, September, October, outreach to different directors of development, executive directors, was where can we get inexpensive access to deep dives in fundamentals. Fundamentals meaning how do we go about setting up an annual giving program, a major gifts program? What do we do about planning a development budget, planning development staffing? How do we work with boards? How do we work with volunteers? How do we work with engagement? People were especially focused on non-transactional fundraising, the hard work of just identifying, cultivating, and turning on the passion of people long before they start giving. And that led to the creation of a planning committee, which Dave and Katina and Tawanda and Chris are on. And we started brainstorming about the courses, and we narrowed it down, frankly, to a list much larger than the 12 we're offering. We've got another 3 to 5 that we're thinking of for next fall. And the ultimate test of the market is the people listening today who will enroll, and the feedback we get from our first year of learners. We're very excited to see what people think of the content. And then we're also working with every single faculty member to make sure that they're covering key concepts that would be aligned to CFRE, that would be aligned to community-centric fundraising, and would also be aligned to our planning and advisory committee's direction. But at the end of the day, we're looking for feedback, of course, from learners and the people who come into our program. So thanks for asking that question.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ann, and thank you, everyone. Looks like that's it for the questions. I'll go ahead and turn over to Dave. If you have any more additional questions you can see, please feel free to contact me, and we'll be happy to address them. So thank you.
Well, with that, Merv, I'm actually going to turn it over to Ann to close us out.
Well, we're just going to play volleyball here. We just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. Thanks to everyone who's worked and helped make this happen. And we look forward to seeing you at the school, and feel free to reach out to us. Have a great day.